90-degree connectors, specifically pull-type connectors with an access plate, are indeed permissible for use in tight locations as an alternative to a standard 90-degree bend in certain electrical installations. This allowance is governed by the National Electrical Code, specifically Article 358.24, which pertains to the use of conduit bodies. Article 358.24 stipulates that conduit bodies shall be used only in locations where they can be readily accessed for examination and maintenance. This accessibility requirement is crucial. The code recognizes that these fittings might become points of inspection or require future work, so unimpeded access is paramount. When considering the application of a 90-degree connector in place of a bend, especially in a confined space such as a corner against a wall, several factors must be meticulously evaluated to ensure code compliance and safe operation. Firstly, the size of the connector is of significant importance. The internal volume of the connector must be adequate to accommodate the number and gauge of the conductors being routed through it. In the situation described, with two conductor fire wires, the connector must possess sufficient space to house these wires without causing undue stress or compression. Overcrowding can lead to insulation damage, overheating, and ultimately, electrical failure. Secondly, proper and secure installation is non-negotiable. The connector must be firmly affixed to both the conduit and the enclosure or fitting to which it is connected. This involves using appropriate hardware, such as lock nuts and bushings, and ensuring that all connections are tightened to the manufacturer's specifications. A loose or improperly installed connector can vibrate, loosen further over time, and potentially create a hazardous situation. Thirdly, the wires within the connector must be properly terminated. This involves stripping the insulation to the correct length, making secure connections with appropriate terminals or splicing methods, and ensuring that there are no loose strands or exposed conductors. Poorly terminated wires can lead to arcing, overheating, and even electrical fires. Fourthly, the access plate on the connector must be securely fastened. This plate provides access to the interior of the connector for inspection, maintenance, and future modifications. A loose or missing access plate can expose the wires to physical damage, moisture, and other environmental hazards. Moreover, it compromises the integrity of the electrical system and can create a shock hazard. The selection of the correct type of connector is also important. Pull-type connectors with access plates are specifically designed to facilitate wire pulling and provide access for inspection and maintenance. However, there are other types of connectors available, such as set screw connectors and compression connectors, which may not be suitable for all applications. It is crucial to choose a connector that is listed and labeled for the intended use and that meets all applicable code requirements. Furthermore, it is important to consider the bending radius of the conductors. While a 90-degree connector eliminates the need for a gradual bend in the conduit, the conductors themselves must still be bent to some degree to enter and exit the connector. The bending radius of the conductors must comply with the requirements of the National Electrical Code, which specifies minimum bending radii for different conductor sizes and types. Exceeding the minimum bending radius can damage the conductor insulation and reduce its current carrying capacity. In addition to the above considerations, it is important to be aware of any local codes or regulations that may apply to the installation. Local codes may impose additional requirements or restrictions on the use of 90-degree connectors or other electrical fittings. It is always best to consult with the local electrical inspector or a qualified electrician to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. The National Electrical Code provides detailed guidelines for the installation of electrical systems, including conduit and conduit fittings. It is essential to familiarize yourself with the relevant sections of the code before undertaking any electrical work. The code is a complex and comprehensive document, and it is not always easy to interpret or apply. If you are not sure whether a particular installation meets the requirements of the code, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the knowledge, skills, and experience to ensure that the electrical installation is safe, reliable, and code compliant. They can also provide guidance on the selection of appropriate materials and equipment and can help to avoid costly mistakes. When working with electricity, safety should always be the top priority. Electricity can be dangerous, and even a small mistake can have serious consequences. It is essential to take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others from electrical shock and fire hazards. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment such as safety glasses and gloves, and energizing circuits before working on them. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to leave the work to a qualified electrician. Attempting to perform electrical work without the proper training and experience can be dangerous and can lead to serious injury or even death. In summary, using a 90-degree connector with an access plate in lieu of a 90-degree bend is permissible under the National Electrical Code, provided that certain conditions are met. These conditions include ensuring adequate space within the connector for the conductor's proper and secure installation, correct wire termination, and secure fastening of the access plate. It is also important to consider the bending radius of the conductors and to comply with any local codes or regulations that may apply. If you are unsure about any aspect of the installation, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. Remember that safety should always be the top priority when working with electricity. Always take all necessary precautions to protect yourself and others from electrical shock and fire hazards. Article 310.15 of the National Electrical Code covers ampacity, which is the current carrying capacity of conductors. When selecting conductors for an electrical installation, it is important to choose conductors that have sufficient ampacity to carry the anticipated load. The ampacity of a conductor depends on several factors, including the conductor size, the insulation type, and the ambient temperature. The National Electrical Code provides tables that list the ampacity of different conductors under various conditions. It is important to consult these tables to ensure that the conductors you select are adequate for the intended application. Article 250 of the National Electrical Code covers grounding and bonding. Grounding is the process of connecting electrical equipment to the earth, while bonding is the process of connecting different metal parts of an electrical system together. Grounding and bonding are essential for safety, as they help to protect people from electrical shock and to prevent electrical fires. The National Electrical Code specifies the requirements for grounding and bonding in different types of electrical systems. It is important to follow these requirements carefully to ensure that the electrical system is properly grounded and bonded. Article 430 of the National Electrical Code covers motors and motor circuits. Motors are used in a wide variety of applications, and they can be a significant source of electrical load. The National Electrical Code provides detailed requirements for the installation and protection of motors and motor circuits. These requirements are designed to ensure that motors operate safely and reliably. Article 440 of the National Electrical Code covers air conditioning and refrigeration equipment. Air conditioning and refrigeration equipment can also be a significant source of electrical load. The National Electrical Code provides specific requirements for the installation and protection of this type of equipment. These requirements are designed to ensure that air conditioning and refrigeration equipment operate safely and reliably. When working with electrical systems, it is important to be familiar with the National Electrical Code and to follow its requirements carefully. The National Electrical Code is a complex and comprehensive document, but it is essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical installations. The proper application of 90-degree connectors with access plates, as with any electrical component, relies heavily on adherence to the National Electrical Code and sound electrical practices. Therefore, understanding the code provisions, ensuring proper installation techniques, and prioritizing safety are paramount for a successful and code-compliant installation. The information provided is intended as a general guide and should not be considered a substitute for professional electrical advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer for specific guidance on your electrical projects. For two conductor fire wires in a conduit, you must select the correct size of conduit to accommodate the wires. The National Electrical Code, specifically Chapter 9, Table 4, provides guidelines for conduit fill. It specifies the maximum percentage of cross-sectional area of the conduit that can be occupied by conductors. The goal is to prevent overcrowding, which can damage wire insulation and hinder heat dissipation, leading to potential electrical hazards. Furthermore, the ampacity of conductors must be adjusted if multiple current-carrying conductors are bundled together in a conduit. This is because the heat generated by the conductors is less effectively dissipated when they are closely packed, leading to a higher operating temperature and a reduction in the conductor's ability to safely carry current. National Electrical Code Section 310.15 current and associated tables detail the ampacity adjustment factors for multiple conductors in a raceway. It is essential to consult these tables to ensure that the conductors are adequately sized for the load they will carry, taking into account the number of conductors in the conduit and the ambient temperature. The type of wire used for fire alarm systems is typically specified in National Electrical Code Article 760, which covers fire alarm systems. The wire must be listed and labeled for fire alarm use and must have the appropriate fire resistance rating. This ensures that the wiring can withstand the high temperatures that may occur during a fire and that the fire alarm system will continue to function properly. Additionally, the fire alarm wiring must be installed in accordance with the requirements of National Electrical Code Article 760, which includes restrictions on the types of wiring methods that can be used and the separation of fire alarm wiring from other electrical wiring. This is to prevent interference and ensure the reliability of the fire alarm system. The conduit system itself must be properly grounded in accordance with National Electrical Code Article 250. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, which helps to protect people from electrical shock and to prevent electrical fires. The grounding conductor must be sized appropriately for the size of the circuit conductors, and it must be connected to a grounding electrode system that meets the requirements of National Electrical Code Article 250. Additionally, all metal parts of the conduit system, including the 90-degree connectors, must be bonded together to ensure electrical continuity. Proper labeling of the conduit and conductors is also essential. The conduit should be labeled to indicate that it contains fire alarm wiring, and the conductors should be labeled to identify their function. This helps to prevent accidental damage to the wiring and ensures that it can be easily identified during maintenance or troubleshooting. The labels must be durable and resistant to environmental conditions such as moisture and sunlight. They should be securely attached to the conduit and conductor so that they do not become detached over time. Regular inspection and maintenance of the electrical system are crucial for ensuring its continued safety and reliability. The electrical system should be inspected periodically by a qualified electrician to identify any potential problems, such as loose connections, damaged wiring, or corroded components. Any problems that are identified should be corrected promptly to prevent them from escalating into more serious hazards. Maintenance should include cleaning of the equipment, tightening of connections, and testing of the system to ensure that it is functioning properly. In addition to the National Electrical Code, there may be local codes and regulations that apply to the electrical installation. These local codes may be more stringent than the National Electrical Code, and it is important to comply with them. The local electrical inspector can provide information on the local codes and regulations that apply to your area. They can also inspect the electrical installation to ensure that it meets the requirements of the codes. It is also recommended to keep detailed records of all electrical work that is performed, including the date of the work, the name of the electrician who performed the work, and a description of the work that was performed. These records can be helpful for troubleshooting problems in the future and for demonstrating compliance with the National Electrical Code and local codes. In addition, having a qualified electrician review your plans before starting any electrical work can help to identify potential problems and ensure that the work is done safely and correctly. A qualified electrician can also provide guidance on the selection of appropriate materials and equipment and can help to avoid costly mistakes. The use of 90-degree connectors with access plates should be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, considering the specific requirements of the installation and the potential hazards involved. While they can be a convenient solution in tight spaces, it is important to ensure that they are installed correctly and that they meet all applicable code requirements. Proper planning, careful installation and regular maintenance are essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of the electrical system.